Hello and welcome. Well, in this season we've got more inventions for you. This time, the compass. We've also got a story familiar to anyone who has grown up in China. Mencius's mother moves 3 times. We also delve into the world of myth and legend with the story of the anger of the Lord of Heaven, who was about to destroy humankind, but was thwarted in his aims both by his compassionate daughter and human ingenuity. Destruction is also the theme of another of our myths, with a rather tragic ending about 9 dragons who are finally killed by the great sage king Shun. Now, we're telling you these myths with a purpose, mind you. They both help to explain important aspects of Chinese culture. We then move to the 19th century to celebrate the life of Lin Zexu and his dramatic seizure of illegally trafficked opium. Finally, we discuss a modern hero, a man who took customer service to new levels. 大家好，欢迎来到第5集。我们会有关于发明的故事，指南针有耳熟能详的孟母的故事。我们也会带你探寻神话传奇，有关于天帝的愤怒的故事。他差一点毁灭了人类文明，但最终危机被天帝女儿和人民所瓦解。还有一个悲伤的故事，那就是与恶龙战斗的舜的故事。这2个神话故事的目的是为了帮助你们理解中国传统文化的来源。之后我们会把时间移到19世纪，来歌颂林则徐以及他禁毒的故事。最后我们会讲一个现代伟大的人物，一个全心全意为顾客服务的人。指南针的故事是关于中国最重要的发明之一。关于发明的故事经常涉及顿悟的时刻，一个科学家突然有了新的见解，引出一个重要的新发明。然而，指南针的故事包含几个世纪以来几代人的聪明才智。指南针发明的关键在于人民意识到，如果让磁铁自由移动，它们总是指向南北方向。那么这一观点在中国的历史长河中早已经存在，所以我们无法确定是谁发现了它。然而，这种洞察力还不足以发明指南针。这个故事告诉了我们，在发明指南针的过程中，真正的挑战是如何让指针或者其他指向设备自由移动，同时又固定在一个点上。所以，中国人早在创造出指南针之前，就已经知道他们想要什么了。那么这个问题实际上是一个工程问题，经过许多代人的尝试，经过大量实验，最终找到了合适的解决办法。指南针故事的另一方面，也就是吸引外国朋友的一点，就是地图上的北表示为上，南表示为下，是很主观的。或者类似于我们认为指南针是指向北方还是指向南方，也是主观的。欧洲文明碰巧把北方放在第1位，把南方放在第2位。那些在西方生活了一辈子的外国朋友会倾向于认为那是自然的，当然，事实上并非如此。所以，这是一个很好的例子，让我们外国朋友思考许多我们认为只是客观事实的事情，实际上只是反映了一种特定的文化观点。好的，现在我们来到诵读环节，我要把这个故事的英文版本从头到尾诵读一下。The compass, finding the right direction at last. Nowadays, we have mobile navigation instruments, so that wherever we want to go, we cannot get lost. But in the past, no such thing existed. So how did people find their way? By the sun. But what about on cloudy days? Then it was impossible. There is a legend which goes like this. Some 4,000 years ago, the Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, and Chiyo fought each other. Chiyo had the magic power to swallow clouds and spit out fog in hope that the Yellow Emperor would lose his way. The Yellow Emperor then invented a southward-pointing chariot. No matter which way the chariot was heading, a wooden figure of a man mounted on it always pointed south, allowing the Yellow Emperor to distinguish the directions. With the help of this device, he finally defeated Chiyou. There is a reference to this in the Notes on Things Ancient and Modern of the Western Jin dynasty. However, some 2,000 years separated the time of the Yellow Emperor from that of the Western Jin dynasty, and there are no records dating from the Yellow Emperor's time, so the story of the Yellow Emperor inventing a south-pointing chariot must remain a legend. There is also a story that attributes the invention of the south-pointing chariot to the Duke of Zhou, and another that claims that Ma Jun of the Three Kingdoms period, 220 to 280, invented it. Although there are several versions of this story, one thing is certain: the south-pointing chariot did not use the principle of magnetism because the deflective power of a magnet would not be sufficient to move a wooden figure of a man. Only by using some mechanical devices fixed to the chariot's wheels and employing their force of repulsion could keep the wooden man on an unchanging course. Maybe the story of the south-pointing chariot is no more than a fantasy. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that the compass was invented by Chinese people. Chinese working people, in the course of prospecting for and extracting iron ore, discovered a kind of stone with the property of mutual attraction. These were natural magnets. Later, it was found that the stones not only attracted each other, they also had the special property of aligning in a south-north direction. So people used this special property to find directions. To use this special property, it was necessary to make sure friction was at a minimum so that the magnet could swing freely into a south-north position. The first attempt involved shaping the magnet into the form of a spoon and placing it on a polished bronze plate. The spoon could then revolve into the south-pointing direction, and it was called the South Governor or compass. No artifacts of the South Governor have been excavated, but according to a number of records, it existed in the Warring States period. In the following years, continuous experiments were conducted with various methods to lessen friction and allow the magnet to spin freely. The Song dynasty scientist Shen Kuo recorded 4 methods of reducing friction: floating the magnet in water, balancing a pointer on a fingernail, placing it on the edge of a bowl, and placing it on the end of a suspended thread. At the same time, it was discovered that a sewing needle could be magnetized by rubbing a magnet on it, and the needle would likewise point south. So such needles were called compass needles. In addition to compass needles, magnetized pointers were sometimes made in the shape of a fish or in other shapes. The invention of the compass was a slow process, and the gradual success of this effort cannot be attributed to any particular person at any particular time, nor were its shape and structure restricted to any one type. The compass was one of ancient China's 4 great inventions. It was already being used for maritime navigation in the northern Song dynasty. In the following southern Song dynasty, the compass was introduced to Europe by Arab traders. The invention of the compass was an important condition enabling global voyages and gave a powerful impetus to the development of international trade and economic and cultural exchanges. The moral of this story: the invention of the compass highlighted the doggedness of the Chinese people in their constant search for solutions to the problems they face and their unflagging spirit of the search for perfection. It had a great historic significance in promoting world trade. Okay, so let's, as usual, do some recitation practice. Today we're going to be looking at onomatopoeia and also how to create a sense of drama. 我们来做一些朗诵练习。今天我们将学习拟声词阅读以及如何创造戏剧的感觉。Some 4,000 years ago, the Yellow Emperor and Chiyo fought each other. Chiyo had the magic power to swallow clouds and spit out fog, in hope that the Yellow Emperor would lose his way. The Yellow Emperor then invented a southward-pointing chariot. No matter which way the chariot was heading, a wooden figure of a man mounted on it always pointed south, allowing the Yellow Emperor to distinguish the directions. Now, first of all, in the first sentence, we're going to emphasize the verb fought. But we're not just going to emphasize it, we will also make sure that we create a sense of fierce fighting as we say it. 首先在第一句，我们要强调动词 fought， 但是我们不会只强调它，我们还将确保创造一种激烈战斗的感觉。我们来听一听。Some 4,000 years ago, the Yellow Emperor and Chiyo fought each other. In the first half of the next sentence, we have an onomatopoeic word, spit. Spit. So when we say that word, we need to use a short, sharp tone of voice that actually imitates the sound of spitting. 在第二句话的前半部分，我们还有一个拟声词 spit, spit. 所以当我们说到这个词的时候，我们需要用一种短促尖锐的声音来模仿喷溅的声音。让我们来听一听。Chiyo had the magic power to swallow clouds and spit out fog. In the second part of the sentence, when we read the phrase lose his way, our voice and facial expression must reflect a sense of confusion. 在句子的第二部分，当我们读到短语 lose his way 的时候，我们的声音和面部表情一定要反映出一种困惑的感觉。Chiyo had the magic power to swallow clouds and spit out fog in hope that the Yellow Emperor would lose his way. In the final part of the paragraph, our voice needs to reflect growing confidence as we describe the Yellow Emperor's invention and the way in which he was able to counteract Chiyo's mist. 在这一段最后一部分，当我们描述皇帝的发明和他对付Chiyo的迷雾的时候，我们的声音需要反映出一种信心的感觉。好的，我们再来听一听整个段落。Let's listen to the whole passage again. Some 4,000 years ago, the Yellow Emperor and Chiyo fought each other. Chiyo had the magic power to swallow clouds and spit out fog, in hope that the Yellow Emperor would lose his way. The Yellow Emperor then invented a southward-pointing chariot. No matter which way the chariot was heading, a wooden figure of a man mounted on it always pointed south, allowing the Yellow Emperor to distinguish the directions. 好的，那么今天的课就讲到这里了，我们下一次再会。